Okay. Hello, everybody. It's
You
Paula.
look great today, Paula.
Oh, thank
Yeah, the
you.
colors are great.
Thank you. I love this color green. I like color. But, thrift shopping, of course. My 99-cent sweater collection.
You don't have to tell us.
No, I'm proud of my 99-cent
Okay.
sweater collection. Okay, so today I found this thing in the American Heritage Cookbook that I've been reading. I know it sounds weird to read a cookbook, but
No, I read cookbooks. Linda
but
McCartney's.
this no, this is a it's the history of food in America,
Oh, cool.
and then there's a cookbook in the back. But you know how we as aging users of technology tend to get cranky about new technology because it's changing our life and there's a learning curve, and we don't necessarily want to go through that learning curve. Okay,
Nope.
so this I found kind of funny because the country, the United States, or our country was changing over from using pots hanging in hearths to a technology that was brand new. It was a coal burning stove. So this coal burning stove, they were boarding up their hearths because they didn't need them anymore. And here we have a Harriet Beecher Stowe little blurb about how this is going to change everything in America. So many good cooks believed that the cook stove worsened the American cuisine. Mrs. Harriet Beecher Stowe articulated what others felt when she wrote, "An open fireplace is an altar of patriotism. Would our revolutionary fathers have gone barefoot and bleeding over snows to defend airtight stoves and cooking ranges? I think not. It was the memory of the great open kitchen fire, its roaring, hilarious voice of invitation, its dancing tongues of flame that called them through the snows of that dreadful winter."
That was Harriet Beecher Stowe that wrote that?
Yeah.
Wow. That is
That's a
too
long
cool.
time ago, yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but I just thought that was kind of funny in light of, technology changing and me screaming at my phone and not wanting to deal with it and yada yada yada. So that was how I thought we'd start this, because I'm going to be reading this book for a while. I'm also my friend Lorraine, who is a totally no bullshit person. She doesn't tolerate any kind of psychobabble. She doesn't. She's a very direct person. So her daughter-in-law gave her Renee I can't think of her last name. She's Brene
That's it.
Brene something or other. She gave her a book, and it's a beautiful hardcover book, and it's got the most amazing collage on the front of a heart with all these different aspects like flowers and people, and it's about emotions, right?
Mhm.
And Lorraine read 2 pages of it. She says, "What is this bullshit?" And she brought it over to me and she says, "Here, this seems like some kind of bullshit that you like."
Oh, jeez.
And I said, "You're right. I love her."
So she said that to her daughter.
No, to her daughter-in-law. She didn't say it to her daughter-in-law. She told me. She gave me the book.
So she's not one of these direct people that will confront you.
If her daughter-in-law were to ask, she would tell her directly.
Mhm.
I didn't read the book. It seemed like a lot of horse more to me.
Mhm.
I gave it to my friend who I
Mhm.
think will like it. So she'll be honest with her, but she's not going to make a point of calling her up and telling her she thinks it's horseshit because it was a gift. It was her Christmas present. So,
But she's not totally boorish.
Oh, she's not boorish at all. No, she's just very, very honest and direct. That's the same one that after seeing Ross and Gwen, the first version, and if you remember, the first version was really hard to watch before we edited it down, right? There was a lot of stuff in there that was just cringeworthy. So she went to see that movie, and then when we had the second movie, Failure, which every movie we made was a bit of an improvement, right? I mean, I think so. And so she went. I said, "Are you going to come and see Failure?" And she says, "Oh no."
no.
I,
Oh, jeez.
I,
She had you typecast already.
I can't take any more of that bullshit.
Yeah.
That was it. But that was fine with me because I know how she thinks, and she's not artsy. She doesn't pretend to be. She did learn how to play ukulele after she retired, which I thought was kind of fun for her, and she learned how to knit. But she doesn't have that same artistic bend, and I like her because I don't have to ever worry about what she thinks because she'll tell me.
Joni, do you like brutally honest people?
Well, I just wanted to say something. I was thinking of you and Greg because I went to North Park to see Cat Daddies,
Oh,
which was a
okay.
great documentary about men and their cats. And you know how the society doesn't really look upon men as being cat lovers, or women. Men are more dog people, you know.
Yeah.
However, this movie was wonderful. It was a really great documentary about these men and how the cats sustained them in different ways. And I loved it. And I'm going to see the one with Tom Hanks with the cats. Schmegel, the man called Otto. Now, what did you ask me?
Yeah, we saw the original one, the one that
Oh.
was from the Netherlands or something.
Oh,
We really liked it.
What?
Do you like being around brutally honest people?
I know that David Crosby was like that, I guess.
I heard that there was
Yeah,
articles
well,
written
you know
about
what he
that.
said? I guess
I
I
didn't
just
know that.
read this. Neil Young said the reason why they weren't talking for a whole long time was because he had called Daryl Hannah an evil, parasite or something,
Mhm.
and so David Crosby was like just, I guess maybe trying to warn Neil, but he took it really offensively, so they didn't talk for years. And I guess he was brutally honest about a lot of things. You know, I don't know. I'm brutally honest. I just told somebody the other day how I felt about something, and I mean, I don't mince words.
I usually try to be somewhat tactful. If somebody asks me a question, uh, and I know if I tell them the truth, I'm going to hurt their feeling. It depends on what the question is. If it's something simple like, you know, I don't know. I try to be tactful along with being honest, but I tend to be more honest. I mean, Greg Greg is more cautious. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but he is definitely when it comes to
Oh,
he's more cautious with
he didn't
people's
used to
feelings.
be.
No, he's always been extremely.
that's true.
He's very he can be brutal, but he's very sensitive, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people who are hypersensitive tend to be they tend to put out barbs like a cactus.
Like a cactus.
So
yeah.
so their inner soft parts can't get hurt.
Or a porcupine.
Yeah. So, I mean
Mm.
that's kind of like how he is, and I know that, and
It's a protective.
it's a protective
mechanism.
It's a protective device. But
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah. So Lorraine, so she gave me this other book, so I started reading that now, and I think she's a little this Renee, whatever her name is, she's a little too. I don't know how to put it.
Sappy.
Sappy, yeah, a
Sappy.
little sappy, but I think she makes a lot of valid points, and I think that the book will be interesting. So I'm reading that and my cookbook. That's all I can handle right now, because I am free. I'm free. I've got every week. I was going 3 and 4 times to this horrible nursing home to make sure
Yeah.
that my mother-in-law stayed intact so that she would be eligible to go into the assisted living. Every week, pushing. And that's why I think I don't feel good today, because you've ever had a situation where you've had a lot of stress for a
Oh, yeah.
long period of time, and then as soon as that stress stops, you feel weak. You're like your body is finally out of adrenaline, and you just like,
Yeah, you put out a ton of energy.
and now I feel like I could have slept all day. I did get some stuff done, but I can just let her. She's in a safe place where they're taking care
And
of
she
her.
loves it. Loves it.
She likes it a lot. She wants. She can't believe that people are waiting on her. She can't believe that it's so nice. And the other
She
place,
has her autonomy, which she was real worried about too.
well, she can't have much autonomy because she can't even read a book anymore because when she gets to the bottom of the page, she forgot what the top of the page
Oh, wow.
was.
And I've been sitting here, Paula, trying to remember the medical term for that kind of
There-
short-term memory
Is there
loss.
is there actually one? I didn't know
Yes,
that.
yes. I've read a bunch of books by Oliver Sacks, the famous neurologist, whose first famous book was The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat.
Oh yeah, I
And
actually
he
yeah.
was a brilliant neurologist. They also made the movie Awakenings with Robin Williams, based on his research in big hospitals in New York City. And I know the term is in my head. We'll probably go off the Zoom and I'll think of it later watching TV or something.
Yeah,
but-
well, the technical the term they used on the doctor's report for, I had to get a doctor's report to have her student loan dismissed. So it's just plain old dementia. That's all they called it, you know. And
yeah, there's different kinds,
Yeah.
though. I can't remember the specific term for that kind.
What was the kind that you mentioned Robin Williams? He had something Louis, what is that called? Something Louis dementia. I can't think of what.
Oh, Lewy body.
That's it. And that's why
Yeah.
I think that's why he did himself in, because he knew it was only going to get worse.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
anything about
Yeah.
that, but I
And he
don't.
was so brilliant.
I do.
know.
I do know that I can't. I can't imagine what that must be like. You know, she's
No, you can't.
she's gotten. You know, she isn't prickly anymore.
Oh.
Well, first of all, she has her hearing aid, and I always
Right.
change her
What
batteries.
she used to do, she would come to the writing group. She would stay for like maybe 15 minutes, and then she would just disappear and leave.
She couldn't hear.
No, it wasn't always that. It was because she felt alienated because the person who was in charge there of the
Yeah,
resident, whatever she was
Yeah.
called, social director, didn't like her. And I said, "How can you not like her?" I go, "She doesn't.
She's-
She's not responsible for the way she is. You know."
she's
Oh, you mean this is when she had her prickly personality?
no, she's had a prickly personality her whole life. She's a very
And that's why the person didn't like her.
she's selfish and narcissistic.
And she's
She-
really, she's very
She's-
narcissistic.
She's
yeah.
selfish and narcissistic, and she always has been. But I think now, all of a sudden, especially because she was struggling so much with the dementia,
Yeah.
that she's just happy that she doesn't have to. Do I have to pay a bill? What am I supposed to be doing? She used to put a note in her pocket saying what her name was and where she lived, so that when she'd go out to the store, she could look at that note. But would she even remember the note was there? You know, I mean, it gotten,
Tragic.
you
yeah.
know,
And she became very defensive as a result. She would come to the writing group and she'd be all excited. Joni, I wrote something. I'm like, great. She'd start reading it. And then, like, if somebody said something, one thing that was not negative, but just kind of, I don't know, just some off side comment or something, she'd get upset and leave.
well, you know, she's an atheist. She's a devout atheist.
know.
Not just and she used to get annoyed with any of the religious poems.
And
that
a
the-
lot of them wrote things like that.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm reluctant to put stuff
Yeah.
like that in my chapbook because, you know, I understand a lot of elderly people have very devout way about them, and they tend to be, you know, really religious in sense. And I mean, I don't want to put a lot of that in the book.
Yeah.
I'd like to put a variety of things in there, and I'd like to include Pat's poem in there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want to, you know, like I says, I don't want to be judgmental and just say no, it can't be in there because it references God. You know, I don't want to do that. So I might have a few in there that.
Yeah, it's tricky when when you're editing. You know,
is.
when you're the editor, you have to, you know, have an open mind about,
Mhm.
especially when you have a group like yours, which is, you know, you're not professional writers. You're
Right.
you're people who are just engaged in some creative writing activities.
Paula has come to my group to be
There-
like a speaker.
Yeah,
at-
it's
at
Oh,
fun.
times.
you've been to this Scribblers
Yeah.
group?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been to the group. I've presented something or other. I don't remember.
I
Just
don't either.
poems.
Yeah, it's just-
Or was it Polish cleaning lady's daughter?
Polish cleaning lady's daughter. She and also, you know, they got a kick out of the fact that we grew up in the same kind of environment, Polish, you know. And they're like, "Oh, was it the same neighborhood?" I go, "Not quite, but kind of close."
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, they got a big kick out of that. And I seem to I get more people when I have speakers. And so I'm going to start inviting George Grace. I
Oh, that's
invited
nice,
Linda
yeah.
Dragem came.
Yeah.
I'm going to invite some other poets that come to the screening room.
Hmm.
I'm going to go more often to the screening room.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't going before I started all this stuff with Pat, so I don't know if I'm going to be going.
I'd like to see you
But
there.
I do like to go occasionally just to see people because
Yeah.
I ran into a bunch of people that I hadn't seen in a long time.
Like Sandy Geary, I love her. She was a member of her group, and she branched off into better things, obviously. But I mean, she just came kind of to be a mentor for us.
Mhm.
Her poetry's unbelievable. It's so good. And Paula's is too. And I just wanted them there, kind of like as a way to bring people in because I'm like, oh, Paula's going to be there. Please come, or oh, this one's coming, And so I was getting more people that way because for a while there, I wasn't getting anybody. And like the group was apart for 2 years, and it was hard to reintegrate
Oh,
people.
with the pandemic,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, I just got real depressed about it because I mean, this group's I had this group for over 10 years. So now we're putting a chapbook out, and I'm real happy about it. But I'm thinking, I don't know what to call it.
Yeah, let me think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to think about it. It something might come up. I'll sleep on it tonight. Sometimes that helps. So anyway, we usually have this routine where I start with something and then I ask Richard,
Richard.
what's on your list?
I was listening to a lecture on video games.
Oh yeah.
You have any thoughts on video games?
I did not let my daughter. There was only a few when my daughter was young, like Pac-Man and Mario Brothers games. I didn't let her Tetris. I play that because I thought it would interfere with her ability to think. I don't know if that's true. There's studies now that say that children that play video games have better concentration and critical thinking skills.
I don't know. I've read that too, but I don't know if I buy it.
I don't know if I buy it either, but they did do a study. But I mean, who did the study? Was it
Yeah.
the people that put out the games?
Yeah, who funded it?
Yeah, who funded it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
So the professor starts off the lecture. He says, whenever I teach this course on video games, I start out by asking my students, is there a dark side to video games? And he said, inevitably, they say, yes, games like Call of Duty celebrate killing people
Oh, yeah.
to get more points.
yeah.
And he says to his class, is that what you consider the dark side? And the students are puzzled, like, what do you mean? He said, I'm going to tell you some video games that are on the market now, okay? This one, Ethnic Cleansing.
Oh no.
In this game, the race war has already begun. Your character runs through the ghetto, blasting away at various blacks
Oh my.
to attempt to gain entrance to the subway system where the Jews have hidden. Then you get to blow away Jews as they scream "Ove" on
Is
your
this-
way to the command
Is
center.
this a
that real?
Yeah.
game?
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Turner Diaries, the game. Heroic white supremacists use a combination of chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons to destroy most of the non-white nations on Earth.
Okay, Turner Diaries. I did hear that name before. Yeah, I didn't know everything that it contained, but
Concentration Camp Rat Hunt. In this game, the player shoots Jewish rats inside the Auschwitz death
Wow.
camp. This game has been downloaded over 12,000 times in 1 month.
How can these be? I am really
speech.
flummoxed.
I am too.
And now this next game has its own website. So I'm going to show you the website when it comes up here. Okay, you ready? Check
Yeah.
this out.
oh boy,
The name of the game is called Hatred.
nice.
Okay. Hatred fills your whole body. You're sick and tired of humanity's worthless existence. The only thing that matters is your gun and the pure Armageddon that you want to unleash.
Do you think that this is all like something
Wow.
that the enemies of the United States can have like? Don't you think that
Very possibly,
that
yes.
that Russia has had? I mean,
Yes.
I know that they had a big part in
Stealing the election.
in separating us as a country, because
Yep.
they put all that propaganda online. But I think there's a lot of underhanded stuff that's. I mean, I know that sounds like a conspiracy theory or something, but
No, they also know that race has been an issue in the U.S. for many, many years, and they also leveraged that in the 2016 election online
That's
too.
what I mentioned.
yeah. So I mean, I get a feeling that we're just allowing a foreign power that loathes us and wants to see us fall. I think they've got a hand in what's happening here, and it's really scary.
I was reading something that Putin is in serious health crisis.
If only
And
He really
he
does.
is. He's really having problems. And
mental.
well, no, I mean, he might, maybe, he'll stop his assault on Ukraine when he forced out of office, because the people are getting increasingly impatient.
But
They,
there's a lot of Russians who think that he's telling the truth. They believe the propaganda. They're not
They have no access to the real picture.
right.
yeah,
So,
of course they have state. Yeah.
And Russia utilizes our freedom of speech and our open society against us. They've been
Right.
doing that since the 40s.
you think so?
Yeah, it's a known fact. The CIA, and if you read about the security services in the U.S., that's the propaganda line. The Russians have been playing that card for 50, 70 years now.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because they know they cannot defeat the United States
Militarily, yeah.
They have to do it from the inside.
So the professor says to his kids, the students, give me a counter argument. Is there a good side to video games that you can present to me? He said, because you got to realize in a lot of these games, you're shooting people. And the students say, well, that's how you get it out of your system. And the country is safer because you're shooting imaginary people instead of real people. And the professor says, well, here's my counter argument. He said, there are video games for pedophiles. And he says to the students, do you think it's a good thing that they're getting it out of their system by playing pedophile video games? There's games for people who love torturing people.
But
He said, do you think that's a good thing to put in people's minds?
if people can't download pedophilia online without being arrested, why is it legal to download a pedophilia game?
Because the game's not real.
I think that
But pictures, if you had pictures of young, real children on your computer, you would go to prison if they find it.
yeah. So
What if you had anime children?
Exactly.
There's a lot of fine lines
Exactly.
with all the free speech stuff,
that's wild.
So in other words, what the professor is trying to get through to the students, what is, if a person is playing torture video games, they are doing something to their mind. And the student said, yes, they are, and it's not healthy. And then he says, but then how healthy is it that you play games where you kill people? Like, why would it be okay for you to do that, but the torture thing is bad? In other words, what the professor is saying to his students is, be careful what you put in your mind.
Yeah, because every single thing, and this is something that I have been arguing forever. Garbage in, garbage out.
Remember our friend who is no longer with us, who enjoyed drawing, torturing, and killing people? And you called him out on it?
Well, I wasn't so much that.
Is that Tony?
Yeah.
Well, no, with Tony and I.
What do you mean
Tony's
he's no longer with us?
He said the show's too serious and he
his
prefers
images-
something more trivial and silly.
Yeah, his images don't disturb me. For one, there's a couple reasons. One
They
is
do me.
he's trying to go against the bad guys. He's trying to be a hero in his
Right.
and he is not making them public because he knows how dangerous they can be. So those two things, because he is a fabulous artist, those two things make me feel like it is helping him because he does not understand how all this horrible stuff can exist in the world, how people can hurt children.
Yeah, I saw that about him for sure.
And I mean, he has a very soft heart. The only thing I objected to on the show was him spewing violent thoughts. When he was talking about, oh, I don't like this person, I wish they were dead, I'd clobber them with a hammer. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I did not want, because I know that this show isn't for everybody.
Yeah, like if we would mention some social injustice, right? We would give our thoughts on it. His thoughts would be, I want to find the person who did that and kill them or torture them or do so and so to them. You know what I mean? Like that was his go-to solution for everything. Like income inequality, he wants to get Elon Musk and he wants to tie him down and he wants to torture him and kill him. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. And Paula said, we don't want to project that kind of thing onto the audience.
Yeah, and it's the same thing as if he were to show his images to the general public. Those images might inspire somebody to do something violent. And I think just the violent talk can have that. I look at this, this show grew out of initially the idea. When we moved back to Buffalo, I was so hungry for conversation, elevated conversation,
real conversation,
talking about books, talking about theater, talking about art. I know I'm a weirdo.
No, you're not.
It's like something that I enjoy, okay? So the thing is, I was hungry for that, and I wanted to hold a salon. I mean,
whatever
of all
happened,
things in my house.
Right, like Gertrude Stein.
Yeah, like Gertrude Stein. And then, have artists come over, talk about ideas.
Well,
and it never happened because you can't, it's hard to get two people.
I used to come here when I was, 22 years old. When I first met you was years ago. Yeah. And we started the poetry forums, and then we had
the readings.
We had the readings.
Right.
And I mean, I was so enthralled by that. And then my boyfriend used to get jealous because he used to think I'd come here for the men. And I'd say, no, I come here for the energy and for the stimulation mentally.
That's just right. So I thought I was going to run these salons out of my house when we moved back, and it never happened. And then I read this thing about the Common Book and about how it's something that people in history used to do. They used to copy out segments of books that they read that inspired them. And I told it to Richard, and then we started talking about it, and I said, I wonder if I could do a show like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care if anybody listens to it.
Right.
I don't care if anybody ever watches the show. I'm doing it for me.
You know what I used to listen to all the time? Of course, I learned a lot about what was going on with the war and everything when I used to listen to Randy Rhoads. I loved Randy Rhoads. But she didn't have everything perfect about her. She was very liberal, which I still am. But I used to love that show, and I looked forward to listening to it. There are no talk shows like that anymore.
No, we just have left right wing talk shows.
Yeah. And I thought today when I was listening to like music, like I was listening to Wooden Ships, and I was singing along and
wooden ships on the water, very free and easy.
Yeah, and and I'm thinking, who's writing shit like that now? All you hear are auto-tune songs and rap.
Do you want to know what I've been listening to? Like, I've been listening to it so much that there's a song called Hejira by Joni Mitchell.
Yeah, I love that song.
I love that song. The bass line in that song is to die for. And do you know that when I was living in New York, I met Jaco Pastorius, and I told him, I said, every time I hear that song and I hear your bass playing on that song, it melts me. I said, it's the most beautiful bass playing in the world. And he was, he was out of his spitting at his fans phase. So he was.
What do you mean? You mean his mental health was good when you said this to him, or it was deteriorating?
No, it was good.
Okay.
It was good. And he was, I wasn't the only musician on that track. And I said, I know, but I said, I hear and feel that bass line.
Yeah, I remember that song.
It's bass, like bass is supposed to be keeping time, right?
This was different. It was flowing.
It's color.
Yeah.
He uses bass as color in that song, and it's the most beautiful bass playing I have ever heard in my life. Anyway, we got off the track, but yes, I do the same thing.
Another song it was Coyote. I was thinking.
Coyote.
Of that
Same album.
I hate to sound. This probably sounds pretentious, but there are no concept albums anymore that used to like, or like. There's no concept music anymore. like when you bought the White Album, you know, there was like some intrigue about it. Just
Yeah.
like when you bought
Dark Side of the
Sergeant
Moon.
Pepper,
Yeah.
yeah, or Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd, and you know, and the same thing with Deja Vu.
All the Jethro Tull albums are concept.
When I
Aqualung.
bought when I bought Deja Vu, I was romanticizing Woodstock because I loved every song on that, and I just thought, oh my God, I was listening to those songs today. I'm thinking, what happened to me? I was 13 years old. Now David Crosby's 81 and he just passed away. Where did all that
Joni-
time go?
Joni, the thing is, and we can't get away from it. The music that we are most connected to is the music that we grew up with, and from a certain age to a certain age.
Mhm.
I mean, I like to think that I still, and I do. I still listen to some music. I hear like Fleet Foxes. They're relatively new, and they have beautiful sound, and they have beautiful music, and they have great lyrics. And I try to find things like that that can excite me, but it'll never be the same as listening to Simon and Garfunkel's.
Exactly.
You know, I'm trying.
Sounds of Silence.
Not this only the one song, and I can't think of any of the lyrics, so I'm not going to try to do it. But anyway, there's a couple songs that just mesmerize me,
Mhm.
and I know that's. But like this Joni Mitchell's album isn't that old. It's not one of
No.
her first ones.
No, it's one of my favorites.
It's-
Blue is another one of my
Blue,
favorites.
me too. That's another one. And
Yeah.
so I listen. I take them in my car because I can give my attention to them when I'm driving, and I will listen to them like ad nauseum until I have the whole album in my head.
Mhm.
But it's just beautiful. In fact, that was one of the things I was going to do today. I was going to read the lyrics to
We
that
have
song.
we have a listener and a viewer right
Mhm.
now,
Yeah,
Andrew Kotler,
yeah,
Hi, Andrew.
living in Tokyo.
Cool.
Tokyo, yeah.
yeah.
Andrew had a show on Think Twice Radio,
Oh, really?
and the thing about his show was self-exploration.
Really?
All right, it was an amazing show. He would just sit in a room by himself, and he would just almost like self-therapy.
Yeah.
And he went on this journey after he had a show here where he would like travel to New Mexico to get in with the ayahuasca people because that's a way of self-discovery,
Mm.
right? He went to a clown school because the best clown schools are the ways of going into your internal psyche.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So he's doing all this searching. In his searching, he met a woman in a Zen class from Japan,
Okay.
fell in love. Now he's living
Ah,
with her in Japan, and he's
Andrew.
watching the show.
Isn't that
Andrew,
cool?
anytime you
Wow.
wanna, what do we do? Zoom?
Yeah, I'm
Anytime-
going to invite him to the next show.
Andrew,
Cool.
anytime you want to zoom in, we'd love to have you. With, this is an open forum, and you sound like a very interesting guy.
He does. He knows. He
Well,
knows
I
a lot
read
about a lot of
Andrew's
things.
Comment,
Pardon me?
Richard,
Yeah.
I read Andrew's comment about video games are huge in Japan, but there's hardly any murder there. But my response to that is Japanese society is very different than American
That's for
society.
sure.
in a
Oh,
lot of ways.
absolutely. You know what? That's one of the things, believe it or not, that I'm learning from my cookbook.
Really? Cool.
is how raw the people that came here were, and how
yeah.
raw, and how they valued that rawness, and how they valued the fact that they could survive, the survivors, and especially the idea of being able to go out and hunt their own food and dig up roots and just live off the land. And I am finding out a lot about what makes that early American tech. And
Mhm.
I don't know if the country just attracts people who have similar mindsets, or I'd be curious to know how many of the people that are involved in these things like QAnon and the insurrection and all those things
Mhm.
are dyed in the wool early Americans, like not people like us whose families came in the late 1800s and early 1900s to this
Mhm.
country
Mhm.
looking for a better life. I'd like to know, I mean, is there something genetic in that early kind of American that has this that bucks the status quo in a odd way?
Mhm.
You know, I don't know. I thought about that when I read a couple passages about the American spirit, that early American spirit, and I thought, geez, that sounds a lot like these guys who are, following Trump and
Well,
acting.
we're a much younger culture, less than 300 years old, where Japanese culture is almost 1,000 years old.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
900 years old. And actually, Japan was extremely violent hundreds of years ago. But I think that their culture maybe hopefully evolved like hopefully ours will. Because I think we have an extremely violent past and an extremely violent culture now.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because I know that in the 1800s, the people that used to make the swords for the samurais, they all of a sudden they that was no longer necessary, so they became artisans, and they were making
Yep.
made metalwork,
They outlawed
Beauti-
the samurais. Yeah.
beautiful metalwork like statues and things like that, and they changed direction. So
Mhm.
maybe someday, when all of us are gone, things will start getting, they'll outlaw insurrectionists or something.
When I think of Japan, I think of what happened at the sumo wrestling championship last year. Did you hear about that on the news?
I think.
Uh,
No.
I saw something on a Freakonomics. There's a documentary called Freakonomics, and I was watching it kind of in the background while I was babysitting this week, and they had something about the cheating in the sumo wrestling, right? Is that what you're talking
No,
about?
no, I'm not talking
Oh,
about
okay.
that. I'm talking about at the championship, you have the two giant guys, and they push against each other,
Yeah.
and you got to push the other guy out of the ring. But there's a referee. The referee grabbed his chest, fell over in the sumo wrestling ring, almost like the football player.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
People in the audience, there were two doctors, jumped up, went on there, and started doing
Giving CPR.
CPR. The announcer, who's been the announcer for decades and decades for the sumo world, started saying, "Attention, women are not allowed in the sumo ring. Attention, women," and they're looking like, "What are you, nuts?" That's the thing. In Japan, people are really programmed like that.
Yeah.
The next day, the guy had to apologize to the whole country. He said, I got to realize I was taught this my whole life. Women are not allowed in the sumo ring. So when I saw it, that's all I could think of.
Oh, so the doctors were
Wow.
women.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
That's really interesting.
That is.
I know. So there's different, right? There's differences in cultures, and the problem. Well, one of the main problems is we have too many guns, and I mean we have
Definitely.
and not only guns, but the wrong kind of guns. We have assault rifles that are their only purpose is to kill people. That's the
Yep.
only purpose of assault rifles, is to kill other people. And so hunting rifles, I don't have any. I like target shooting. I used to go target shooting with when I was a teenager all the time.
Yeah, it's
I
fun.
didn't aim at anybody. I aimed at a target, and it was fun.
I did that with archery. I used to love archery.
Yeah.
I
So
wouldn't kill animals with it. I like doing it.
well, I used to go hunting with Gloria's. Gloria too.
Yeah.
Gloria's
Gloria Zona.
well, not with
Oh.
Gloria, with her brother.
Oh.
Her brother was my boyfriend, and I would go hunting with him,
Mhm.
and I would scare the animals away before he shot them.
You were a hunt saboteur then.
I had my hunting license though, because I had to go.
Oh.
I went out with my hunting license, and I would scare the animals away.
Holy cow.
And he stopped taking me after a while.
Oh wow.
You're a friend of the animals, damn it.
Well, no, I mean they actually ate the animals. He would only shoot
I
things
know.
that
I
they
mean,
would process and
well,
eat. And
I've known hunters that always eat the deer that they get and everything, but I still could not shoot a deer unless
get
I
me
was in a
started.
survival
no, I
situation.
couldn't
Yeah.
either.
I could do it if I was
There's a
starving,
book.
but-
There's a book called now I forgot the name of the book. But there's a way that they manipulate the herd to increase this more, so there's more deer. And it's so fundamental. It's so easy to even explain. I mean, all they do is they allow more males to be shot than females, and what happens is the following year there's more babies being born because they try to make up for the loss. And it's I wish I could think of the name of the book. It's the hunting something. Anyway, I read that, and it really made me realize that the DC they're just pimps for hunters. Is all they really are. They are.
One of
They're-
my closest friends lives in Mississippi, hunting culture, shot a deer, ate the deer, and something in the deer's body went into his body, and he has some kind of cancer in his colon now as a result of that. He got an infection.
Oh, could have been brucellosis or something that, you
Yeah,
know.
meat is not.
Well, there's like that Jacob Creutzfeldt syndrome.
Yeah, that comes
people
from
get.
cows that are
And
infected
there's
by.
the prion disease in deer. It's even it's in the Midwest now.
Ooh,
If
Yeah,
you
Creutzfeldt-Jakob
butcher
disease.
a deer, the prions, which they just discovered these like a couple decades ago. It's not even a living cell. They don't even know what it is exactly, but it's in the bones of the animals. And if you cut through the bones when you're butchering the deer, you release it into the meat. So you really, really have to know how to butcher a deer properly, or you can release these diseases.
yeah. I don't want. I
And,
don't want
so
to.
to me, it's like,
wanna
no,
know.
no thanks. I'd rather not eat venison.
Well, it's appropriate that he brings that up because my friend blames the way the deer was prepared. He doesn't blame the fact that he killed this
true.
animal and then
Oh,
ate it.
he blames
It's
the
You know,
way
very
it was
similar to
prepared.
he
mad
blames the
cow disease.
preparation.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's fish that if you eat it and it's not cooked totally properly well, the way it's supposed to be cooked,
Mhm.
you will die.
Mhm.
And I mean, I think this is a big thing in Japan.
Right,
You
blowfish.
And
Yeah.
Andrew, you can,
Mhm.
yeah,
Andrew,
blowfish.
do you ever eat blowfish?
Oh, and tilapia is supposed to be. I
Well,
heard.
you know,
'Cause
it's
it's
farm
farmed.
raised,
It's
and
farm raised,
and
yeah.
anything, you know, everything though, everything that's it our food system is broken in this
It is.
country.
We need to go totally. Well, we need more plant based, obviously. More things happening in that.
Yeah.
Plant based and also just more farming that's done with
The
by
sustainable.
sustainable farming, small
Yeah.
farms.
Well, it's the huge factory farms. When we were born, there were a lot more independent family farms,
Yeah.
smaller
Oh,
farms.
they're breaking the backs of farmers and they're taking all the farms away.
Yeah.
They
The
they want
corporations
to
own it
they
all.
want to control the food so that I mean that's a big controlling the food. You know, we all need food. We can't live without food.
Think about what happened just recently during the pandemic where there were all these shortages. Even now, like, I mean, well, I think the reason that there's an egg shortage is because the animals were sick and
There was a
Yeah.
bird flu.
But I
bird
mean,
flu.
shelves were empty for different reasons. Like,
now they're smuggling eggs from Mexico.
I heard that.
I got a chicken to sell you, man.
Joni brought a poem.
Oh, okay.
It has to do with food.
Oh, okay,
my,
sure.
My friend Renee Mohan, who's also a friend of Gloria Zona,
Yeah.
she brought her to my poetry group. I'm like, she was really great, but she's a dog groomer and she is a cat
Mhm.
person. This quote comes from Renee Mohan. I loved it so much, so I turned it into this poem. Food is just a vehicle for salt. Isn't that good? I got to make a poem on it. Salt was the preserver on ancient ships. The earliest sailors brought it home to sell and to savor like a prized spice. Even the oceans from which all life evolved taste like salt. I remember this every time I shed tears of joy, rage, or sorrow. The amniotic fluid is our first human connection to salt. But now it seems everything I taste is too damn salty, especially fast food, which I try not to eat anymore. I take the salt shakers off the table. I make my own soup minus salt. I check labels to see how many milligrams are salt are contained so my blood pressure will comfortably tolerate it. I get so frustrated that I just stop eating anything but vegetables and they taste so bland. Food, after all, is just a vehicle for salt. I just thought I had to write something.
Well,
different with it.
you have to be careful though because you do need salt, and
yeah.
if you're having salt, you have to make sure it has iodine because you don't get iodine from anything else.
Right.
And your
right.
body needs
So you buy the
iodine.
And
iodized
you get a
salt.
big goiter in your throat.
You need
Yeah.
iodine. It's a component that is very important to your health. But you know, my Aunt Rose was in the hospital because she had sodium.
Kathy's mother?
Yeah, she had
Oh.
sodium deficiency. She was in the hospital. She was very sick. And she doesn't salt anything, and so the doctor told her that she has to add some salt.
Can
in
we
order.
invite Kathy to the show?
Kathy she can come anytime. She doesn't. She
Oh,
has no
I
interest.
miss her so bad.
Kathy has no interest in this show, which is fine with me.
What is she into now? What is she?
She's got she's busy with the hotel and she travels and she's
Okay.
getting her mother better. So she's
Okay,
working on her
okay.
mom.
Oh,
But
okay.
but yeah, I did see her I saw her last month, and I think I'm going to see her again this month because she might go with me to Second Chic.
I remember when she lived upstairs. And Rhett was laughing the other day because he goes, Joni, he goes, I remember. Yeah. He goes, he would charge me rent. It was like $175.26. He says, and then
How did you come up with?
I don't know, but
figure
they used
like
to
that?
charge him weird rent. And then and then he goes, Dave used to have fights with Richard. And so he would get mad at him and he'd come to visit me instead. And all he would do is this rock. And he'd say, Dave, you got to quit rocking. But I just miss him so bad. I miss.
Well, no, it's like Richard said, he was gone already.
I know.
So it's sad. But so Richard, we only had one thing from your list
Well,
so far.
let's see what Brian has.
Brian,
Oh,
you have
Brian, I forgot. You should be sitting here, Brian. That's right. What are you reading this week?
Yeah,
Next
how come
week.
he's not sitting by me?
It'd be nice to be. Yeah, I didn't start reading Alexander the Great, the book that you lent
Oh
me.
no, that's fine. I just wanted you to have it because it's a nice book, and I wasn't going to read it.
I started reading, admittedly, embarrassingly, my paperback copy of a book by Edward O. Wilson,
Oh, Diversity of Life?
The Future of Life.
Oh, the Diversity of Life is the one I have.
And yeah, that might have come out.
Why
around
is
the same
why is
time or
that
something.
embarrassing? I don't
I
understand.
mean, because I've been reading it on the toilet every morning.
That's okay.
I had the book sitting in my collection for several years and read a little here, a little there, and I've been reading more of it sitting on the can the last week.
Well, it's good if you have a book in the bathroom. There's always a couple extra
It
minutes.
distracts me from doing what you have to do in there, and I actually, it's in the morning usually, and my brain is pretty active and awake. And but I was just thinking about it today, and he talks about biophilia, which bio is life and philia is love. So biophilia means love of life, like
Right.
all life. It's his term for. He talks about how genetically, DNA wise, all life on the planet Earth comes from little protozoan type cells, little amoebas and whatever, that all creatures on the entire planet are genetically related in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, yeah.
And that he talks about stewardship, which is something I've thought of for a long time, about how if human beings were really in touch with the fact that genetically all life on this planet is intimately connected, we would appreciate more and love the other life on the planet more, instead of it goes back to Genesis in the Bible, and Christianity has a big hand in it in Western civilization, where I've always felt, when I was reading the Bible in high school, and I ended up going into the seminary for a year when I was 18 and decided I didn't want to be a priest, my reading of the beginning of the book of Genesis was always that human beings should be caretakers of the earth. And it's funny because Pope Francis has written a lot about this in the last 20 years.
I love him.
And
Yeah.
Pope Francis had a degree in biology,
Hmm.
and he was trained in biology as a scientist. And he's written a lot in the last couple of decades about how human beings should be caretakers of the earth, not lording over the earth,
But-
No.
not all
But-
the animals and
Brian,
vegetables.
Do you think that most people have the capacity to do that? I think that people are so motivated. Not all people. I think that there's the artists and the writers and the people who are thinkers they're deep thinkers, and they're people with deep emotional connections to things. And then there's everybody else, and they're
Right.
motivated by money and shit.
Native
Right.
Americans
Well, that's
always felt
exactly
that.
where I'm going, though, Paul. I was thinking about it earlier today. Of if they could somehow get that book into the brains of people in the boardrooms in corporations, and it could be portrayed to them in a way that they would viscerally understand how true what Edward O. Wilson is saying. He's a scientist, but if they could put it in, couch it in language that these business people would understand, that they are fucking themselves.
Yeah,
Right.
but they don't.
Well-
they don't care because once
getting rich now.
once they're gone, they don't care what happens to the
Right.
planet.
There's a lot of people that feel that
Exactly.
way. They're very, yeah. You know, Albert Schweitzer tried to do that too. And, you know, his.
Oh yes, yeah. I read about his time in Africa
Mhm.
long time ago.
And of course, Jane Goodall's doing it now. You know?
well, there's been many.
It's
you know,
everybody. See, that's what I was. I always thought that it would, that at some point I guess I just had this idea that all the right. I hate to say it like that. Right thinking people, all the people who are the thinkers,
Empathetic.
empathetic people who think, people who care. All those people were going to end up on planet Earth, and the rest of them were just going to die off. And I thought maybe that's what COVID was.
A way to get rid of the people that. Yeah,
You know,
maybe it's a
it's
ploy.
It's a
they
a
talked about that.
Yeah, it's a
on
sick-
the internet a lot.
yeah, it's a sick
Maybe
thing to
all the
think.
Stupid people will die off.
Yeah, but it's a sick thing to think. But I think that I had this hope in my head that someday it would just be the empathetic people, like you say, Joni, and everybody else would disappear somehow. And of course, it's not going to happen. Not in our
No.
lifetime, or not ever.
Partly because the less intelligent people tend to reproduce a lot more. No, it's a fact. People have been talking about that for a long time.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that.
You know, because, and it's horrible. It sounds really prejudicial and biased to say.
Sounds
the
elitist.
stupid people and the intelligent people and because
But
everybody.
it's not
has
just
their-
intelligence, because I know people who are not educated, who are empathetic and caring and loving
Yeah.
and good
Okay.
people. It's not just smart people. I mean, and not even. I mean,
Right.
it's not educated and smart are two different things. You don't have to be educated to be. In fact, some educated people are
Exactly.
not smart.
Right.
They just have the education. So I would just like just a couple months of my life just to live on a planet where everybody was on the same page and kind. And that's why I live on the planet Paula, because the only people allowed on the planet
I like
Paula are empathetic, kind people who want to do the right thing for the right reasons. You know, they're not motivated by greed. They're not motivated by lust. They're motivated by wanting to do the best thing for themselves and other people.
Well, I think a lot of things that have been said recently about like what happened to Damar Hamlin. A lot of people are saying, well, now people are realizing it's not just a game; it's people's lives. You know, like his life mattered, and
Right.
I felt good about that. But then I thought, well, we're going to go back to the same crap anyway.
Well, yeah.
know,
When the
Sure.
poem I'm writing
Is
for,
about
for
gladiators?
you is you know, the Romans roared in the Colosseum,
Yeah,
and then how they gave the thumbs up to keep him alive instead of thumbs down, which is we don't care. But how is that going to play out in the long run? We
Right,
don't know. You know,
right.
like you say, it's nice that it happened, that people were thinking about it, but you know, we're not evolved enough, I don't think, to get rid of those kinds of
One thing-
violent
one
sports.
thing I
Bread and
just-
circuses.
one thing
Yes.
I
Getting
just
back-
I just want to say
Getting
one
back,
thing.
Paula,
Okay.
if I can interject, I think it is about intelligence because my pet theory for a long time now is that human beings are not as smart as we think we are. And if all those greedy people that are out there to make billions of dollars now actually were intelligent enough, they'd see that in screwing up the planet, that what they would actually understand the import of what they're doing.
Right,
And that
right,
their
no.
children and their grandchildren are going to be fucked.
No, but I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't talking. I was mostly saying that I know a lot of smart people who have no education. So
No, I totally agree
yeah,
with that.
so
You can be very smart and not go to college.
right.
Like my mother never went to college.
But there's emotional
Emotional intelligence.
emotional intelligence, and that's what these people are lacking. They're lacking emotional intelligence. So,
Yeah, but I also think they're lacking just pure intelligence too.
well, they're
I mean, yeah,
smart
you're
enough.
right.
They're smart enough to make money and
But that's not hard
manipulate.
to do, really.
Oh, it is. It is hard to do. If it wasn't hard to do, there'd be a lot more. Because a lot of these people who aren't nice people are running around and they're not rich. They're poor.
No,
know?
I'm not saying they're not intelligent. The people that are out there making billions of dollars, obviously they are. And there's different kinds of intelligence. That's what they're finding out more and more as they study the brain.
Brian, one thing that really I was disillusioned, Elon Musk is really shallow. I don't know if you heard him speak.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not happy with him.
He's a nincompoop.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's a good example of what Paula was saying, I guess, because he's got probably like 180 IQ, and he's intensely intelligent on one level, but then he's
shallow.
lacking awareness
Yeah.
on other levels.
Yeah.
So, like, his whole Twitter thing is like just blowing up his own ego. Now he can say anything he wants without any holds on him. I think he's gotten extremely egotistical, and he is extremely, extremely intelligent. He's got a higher IQ than mine, but I don't think that means he's smarter than
No,
I
it means
am,
he's shallow, though.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Is there-
What is she looking at?
I was
There's a
looking.
timer.
I was looking at
Oh.
the timer because I saw
Oh,
my
okay.
son peeking around the curtain, saying, "When is this bullshit going to be
Oh,
over?"
jeez.
Mr. Kotler did respond to the thing about does he eat blowfish?
Yeah.
That can kill you.
yeah,
if they're
yeah,
not.
Yeah.
right.
He said, no, I do not eat that, but I eat all the other Japanese cuisine.
Okay.
Ah,
So
okay.
he is still listening.
Yeah,
Does
that's
he eat
good.
dolphin?
Oh, please. I don't think so.
I think that I don't think that it's considered
A delicacy?
no, I don't think it's considered a bad thing to eat in other parts of the world. I think only the United
No.
States. But is mahi the same as dolphin?
No.
No, it's a fish.
Okay.
A dolphin's a mammal.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. I've never
But whale meat's big in Japan.
yeah. Well, it's big in
So,
it's big in
It's
Alaska.
a delicacy.
It's big with Native Americans and the whale blubber up in
Alaska.
Alaska.
yeah. Oh, I have another poem about that, about the polar region. I was in watching a while back. I can't remember how many years I was there.
We'll go out on this then because
right.
this is the end of the show.
A polar quest. I preferred to see them out in the wild, in the bold, cold Manitoba region. I went there because the profound sadness of the polar bear is what kept me from going to see them at the Buffalo Zoo. It's like they know what's happening to them in their Arctic home. But even here, where some still thrive, they are like living trophies from an age that has already passed us by. A cold black eye blinks at me in odd resignation, and my heart sinks. In any tribal language, they are Ursus maritimus, a strong sacred totem to native peoples. I came to Churchill as a speck of tundra on the Hudson Bay to watch these giants. Most of them were scrawny looking. The more I watched them, looking haggard and hungry, the more my heart sank. These are the symbols of human greed and waste. These creatures are some of the first ecological refugees as we enter the age of the Anthropocene.
Who wrote that?
Me.
Oh, I thought maybe it was you. I like it.
Thank you.
Did you go there?
Yes. I went to Manitoba with some friends of mine that live. That's the end.
Oh, goodbye, people.
Bye.
Goodbye, Andrew.
Thank you for having me. Bye, Andrew. Thank you, Brian.
It's great. It was great
Thank
to
you.
Thank you,
have
Paula.
a nice comment.